In this video, we're looking at frictional unemployment. There are many types of unemployment we have today. We have classical, we have cyclical, we have structural. But we're looking at frictional unemployment because it's a very unique type of unemployment in the workplace. And we want to really take a closer look at this type of unemployment and understand how it impacts the employment rate. Frictional unemployment is the time in between jobs, right? So let's pause there for a minute. Is the time between jobs. So the time when you end one job and begin another job. So assuming that there's a lag, between the two jobs. So for example, you end one job on February 1st, you begin another job on March 1st. Right? So those 28 days, usually 28 days, sometimes 29 daes, depending on if it's a leap year. But those 28 days, you are frictionally unemployed. Right? Now, even though you're frictionally unemployed, you do have a job waiting for you. And you will start the job in the next 28 days. Right? So that's why this is a very unique type of unemployment, because when we calculate the unemployment rate, we have to know the frictional unemployment rate as well. It's very important to understand what that rate is. All right, so it says, in other words, the time when one job ends and another begins, right? When one job ends, very keyword here, and another begins, another keyword here. Sometimes this is called such unemployment. So another term for frictional unemployment is such unemployment. So sometimes you will see such unemployment instead of frictional unemployment is the same type of unemployment, and maybe voluntary, right? So it may be voluntary depending on the circumstances of the individual involved. Now, what does that mean that it may be voluntary? Well, some people don't want the break, right? They end one job on February 1st. They begin another job on February the 2nd, right? So there is no frictional unemployment there. But again, it's voluntary when you end one job on February 1st and you elect to start the other job on March 1st, right? And again, the time in between is when you are frictionally unemployed. And that, sometimes is voluntary. It's a negotiation between the individual and the new, employer, right? Again, sometimes they can negotiate to start right away without a break. And sometimes they negotiate to have a time in between the two jobs. All right, and that's why we say that it may be voluntary. All right, so frictional unemployment is responsible for the fact that full employment, right? And this is a very key point here. Full employment in any society cannot be achieved, as there will always be individuals who are frictionally unemployed, right? So we cannot have full employment at any given time in any society. Why? We cannot have 100% employment because you have frictional unemployment. There are always people in between jobs. The only time we can have full employment is if we have no frictional unemployment. Right? People end one job on one day and the next day they pick up another job, then they are not frictional unemployed. There's no frictional unemployment. But as long as we have frictional unemployment, we will never have full employment. This is a very key point to understand. Okay, so in this case then, right, the level of involuntary unemployment is calculated as the unemployment rate minus the rate of frictional unemployment. Right? And that's how we get the level of involuntary unemployment. So we have to understand the rate of frictional unemployment, take that rate out of the unemployment, of the general unemployment rate. That's when you get the actual rate of unemployment in any society. And again, this is important for us to understand it this way, because if we don't understand it this way, you will be getting the numbers wrong because you are not accounting for frictional unemployment. It also says that this may be the reason why it is difficult to properly measure the increases or the decreases in the unemployment rate in simple statistics. So simple statistics simply says, just calculate the unemployment rate by looking at people who are unemployed, and we have a sense of, the rate. But again, you have to account for frictional unemployment. If you don't, you will not have a proper and accurate statistics of those who are unemployed, right? Because those who are frictionally unemployed, they do have a job waiting for them, and they will not be unemployed for very long. and you have to take that into account. So this is frictional unemployment, a very interesting and unique type of unemployment system that factors into the unemployment rate, and we have to understand how it factors in, and we have to understand that rate in the overall calculation of the unemployment rate in any society.